Hello today, and today I'm going to be talking about these new retro computers or consoles that are coming out. Like we've had the new mini Nintendo or the new mini Super Nintendo, the ZX Spectrum Vega. Basically a consoleized version of the computer, a modern equivalent. You just plug into your TV and play your old Spectrum games. Now we're going to have the Commodore 64 Mini. What do I think of all these things? Me personally, I'm not speaking for everybody else, because everyone is going to have their own personal opinions on what they think and if they buy one or not. Me, no, I would not buy them. I would not buy one, especially the new. I don't know. I suppose it's a good idea in some sense. You're bringing back the retro gaming. You're bringing back retro gaming consoles, but it's not the same, is it? It's not the same thing. I mean, inside ain't going to be the original hardware of the original console. It's all going to be emulated inside. You can put an emulator on your PC and play it on your PC. That's what I usually do if I want to play these old retro games. It's just easier to record. It's easier, just easier in the long run. I've got a Commodore 64. I've got Amstrad CPC, but if I want to record, I ain't going to go and set them up, because I'll have to get them plugged in, plug it all in, get a capture card, which I've got, which don't work on Windows 10, so I'll have to buy another capture card. Just the sake of playing it on original hardware, it's just not worth it if I want to record. Okay, if I want a private game or something I want to play on my own, yeah, I might set it up. I can easily just do exactly the same thing on the emulator. And that's what it is. This is what these new consoles are. They're just emulated inside. It might have a Raspberry Pi powering the bloody thing. I don't know what the hardware is. I don't want to speculate on what it is. I don't know if it's an emulated Raspberry Pi, like a Raspberry Pi inside, or a mini PC or computer, and just emulating the old hardware. I can't honestly see it being the old original hardware. It's not. I don't think it is, especially with the new Commodore 64 Mini. I'm hearing all sorts of things about it. It's a lot smaller, but to be honest, I've heard a first glimpse of the box, and I personally don't like it. I personally don't like the look of it. I was not a big fan of the original bread bin, the original version of the Commodore 64. I just did not like the look of it. Okay, the hardware inside was amazing. It's a fantastic computer, don't get me wrong. I own one. I owned one back in the day, so I knew what sort of computer it was. It was a great computer. My mate had one, that's why I wanted to buy one. It's amazing and brilliant, but I just did not like the look of the bread bin model. And this is what the new Mini, and later on they're going to produce a real size version. It's of the bread bin. What sort of hardware has that got? I'm hearing all sorts of things about it. That the keyboard doesn't do nothing. It doesn't work. To me, that is utterly pointless. Recreating one of the best. I'm not saying the best, but one of the best 8-bit computers around. It was a computer. It had a keyboard, working keyboard. What's the fucking point of recreating that and it doesn't have a working keyboard? This is what I'm hearing. I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what I'm hearing. Yes, it'll be good. It'll be good if the keyboard works. I think if people want to experience old retro gaming, I think it'd be ideal. But I even seen the price of it. I think it's about 70 or 80 quid. You can buy an original, well, not an original, a Commodore 64 online for cheaper than that. You know, if anything, I'd rather have the original Commodore 64 and the re-release or the remakes, the mini ones. It's like the Nintendo. I honestly don't see the point. I honestly don't see the point of it. As I say, it's not the original hardware. You know, if you want the original, go and find the original. I know retro consoles and computers are getting very expensive now. But this is probably an alternative. Probably the next thing playing on hardware, you can plug it straight into your TV. You've got HDMI output now instead of the old composite that we used to have, or the SCART connections. With the Commodore 64, it was we had to plug it via an aerial lead. It has got options to plug in through to a composite TV or anything like that, or SCART. You know, back in the day when they come out, you had to have a colour monitor or a TV. You know, you plug it through the aerial. Obviously, modern computers, well, an aerial don't even exist anymore. But that's how we used to do it. That's what it was with the Amstrad. You can see in the background there. That had to be plugged into a colour monitor or a green screen monitor. If you bought a modulator, which I did back in the day, after my monitor's blown, I bought a modulator. The picture going through the aerial lead was utter shit. The modulators were crap for the Amstrad. It was just utter shit. It couldn't handle its colours. The TV couldn't handle its colours and its higher resolution. It really, the picture was all messy from TV. But like later on with a SCART composite, obviously the picture was improved, much improved. But I don't know. It's just, if you're playing it like a modern console of a retro game, like let's start again on that one. If you buy one of these like mini consoles like to play retro games, I think you're still missing a little bit of the experience, because back in the day we had to connect it to a CRT TV. So nowadays it's all like LCD, LED TVs and widescreen, and back in the day it was nothing like that. I was experienced playing on my Commodore 64 on a 15-inch colour portable TV. You know, that's how I remember playing on my Commodore 64. You know, until, you know, I saved up a bit of money. Well, I didn't actually, because I ended up getting a big telly, but I think it was my father's old one, because he just bought a new telly, so I had his old telly. So that's how I got bigger TVs, but it was still a CRT thing, you know, it weren't nothing fancy. But that's how I remember playing my games, my Commodore 64, my Commodore Amiga, through CRT TV, because I never had well, LED plasmas, and they never existed. The new TVs just didn't exist back then. It was just basically CRT TVs, and that's how I remember playing my games on one of them TVs. And it's a totally, you know, when you look at a CRT TV playing it, it's a totally different experience than playing it on a normal, like, well, I say a newer flat panel or whatever you want to call it TV. You know, you had the scan lines, and you know the resolution was what you got. You know, it wasn't really like what you get now. We didn't have 4K or HDMI back then. That's how I remember playing the games. You know, I just don't know, if you buy these modern consoles, you just ain't going to get that experience like how you used to. Because, you know, it's going to have an HDMI output, and it's going to be outputting higher resolution graphics. Well, no, it's just going to higher resolution pixels, or I don't know. You know, it's just not my, it just wouldn't be my cup of tea to spend money on a new retro system. Just doesn't interest me one way or the other. If I was going to buy something, I would try and buy an original game system. Like if I was going to buy a Nintendo, I'd rather go out and buy the original Nintendo, or whatever system. Well, I've got a Commodore 64, so I won't be, I mean, buying the new Commodore 64 ain't going to interest me. It's not going to interest me one bit. I don't even use my old one. I mean, what's the point of it? what would be the point of it? Because I think, as I said before, it's not going to have the original hardware. All the hardware is going to be obviously emulated inside the machine, so really that is something I don't really see the point of. I can just play an emulated game on my PC. And they're charging quite a lot of money for what it is. You know, as I said before, everyone's going to have their own opinion on this. You know, you probably think, oh, it's a welcoming site, welcoming site. Yes, it's great that we're getting all these retro consoles coming back. You know, people might think, great, yeah. To me, no, I honestly think, you know, they've been done. You know, it's been done. You know, it has been done, and you know, we enjoyed those times. You know, it was great times back in the days of the older systems. You know, but I know enthusiasts are going to bring it back for enthusiasts. Yeah, okay, I can understand that, but for me, I can just play these old games on a emulator. It's no big deal for me. I'm not going to go out and spend money on something that I'm never going to use, because honestly, for me, it'll be pointless, because it'll just be sitting there like that Commodore 64 over there, never being used, because I'll have to, okay, one HDMI cable ain't going to be no problem. That's all it is. Just plug it into your mains, plug the HDMI cable in, you're good to go. It's got pre-installed games. But these pre-installed games, are they disk images or tape images, or not tape images, or T64 file or D64 files, or is it going to be, so it just loads up instantaneously? I mean, if it's that, that's great. I mean, if it loads up instantaneously, then okay, fantastic. But with this new Commodore 64 Mini, what concerns me is the keyboard. It's not a non-functioning keyboard. This is what I'm hearing, and that's what I think is pointless. If you know it comes with a keyboard, you want to use the keyboard. That's the point of it. Otherwise, it's just going to be one of those shitty Commodore 64 GS's, the game system, the consoleized version of the Commodore 64. I'm sorry, but that was shit. I would never ever get one of them. I would never ever get a consoleized computer. Never would do. I don't see the point. They did it with the Amiga as well. No, why would I want to waste my money buying a consoleized version of a computer? No, no way. I would never do that. Just pointless. Absolutely pointless. You know, it's something else that's attracted me. I was thinking about buying they had the Spectrum, this old 48K Spectrum. Later on, I found out it ain't. Well, I knew it weren't a 48K Spectrum, but I thought they redone it. I thought it was an actual Sinclair ZX Spectrum they redone. Not realise it's just a keyboard, a wireless keyboard, which has a lot of problems. Which is a pity, because I really like the style of the old 48K Spectrum, the original Sinclair ZX Spectrum. I thought that was a nice looking machine. When I first saw it about 35 years ago, something like that, 30 odd years ago, it was over 30 years ago, my mate had one. Really nice looking thing, really nice looking thing. You know, back in the day, playing games on it, it's brilliant. You know, my other mate had a VIC-20. This was before they had a Commodore 64. One of them, he got the Commodore 64. I was just amazed when I saw his Commodore 64. He had that model, not the Breadman model, the C version, the Commodore 64C, like I've got there. It was amazing. I do prefer the look of the C version to the bread bin. I didn't like the bread bin that much. I thought it was an ugly looking thing, especially the brown colour. What was Commodore thinking coming out with that colour? Maybe because it matched, because it had a lot of things back then, like the old television sets had a wood effect around the side. Had that I would have felt maybe the Commodore 64 was trying to fit in with the colour. I just thought it was, I thought it was a horrible thing. I thought it was an ugly, one of the ugliest computers I've ever known. Was the original Commodore 64 in that brown. But you know, I've seen grey ones. It did look better than the brown ones. But then what the newer ones come out, the C version, because of the Commodore 128. So it did look better. So it doesn't matter what it looks like. It was the hardware that was impressive for its time. It was a brilliant computer. You know, so I was glad to get a Commodore 64. I bought one pretty late in my time though. I bought in the early 90s, 91. I bought my Commodore 64, so it was 9 years into its life when I bought my first Commodore 64. Unfortunately, Commodore 64 phased out a few years late, but I bought my Amiga straight after that. I was even late with the Amiga, but I wouldn't be surprised if they brought out an Amiga. A new Amiga. I don't know. This is what I think, anyway. I know I've been going off at tangents, but I always do on my videos. So, but me personally, I'm just staying away from these new retro computers, consoles. They don't interest me. You know, they just don't interest me one bit or another. Yes, it could be a good idea for retro, you know, for newer gamers to get into retro gaming, maybe. But I think enthusiasts of the old systems rather keep and play on the older systems, the original systems that they grew up with, like the Commodore 64, the Amstrad, and they might even bring out a new Amstrad CPC. You never know. They're bringing out everything else, so they're bound to bring out the Amiga and the Amstrad CPC pretty soon. We have the Spectrum Vega console. I just don't see the point in that. You know, people might argue, oh yeah, but that's good. But you know, if you're going to play on the original Spectrum, if you can get hold of original Spectrum, if not, just play on an emulator. Yeah, but people are going to disagree with that. Okay, fair enough. And they're bringing out this Vega Plus. What the fuck's going on with this Vega Plus? It's like back. You know, people have backed it with their money and all that. And I don't. You know, I'll bother with it anyway. It wouldn't be my sort of thing to have an handheld Spectrum. You can do that with your You can play Spectrum games on your mobile phone. You can emulate anything. You know, I've got all the emulators on my mobile phone, so why would you want to go out and buy a fucking handheld console to play Spectrum games? You can fucking do that on a mobile phone. Bloody hell. Okay, you got the buttons, you know. I prefer not to play on a mobile phone because I don't like them really. You know, but I'm happy playing emulated games on my PC. You know, I can record them. It's easy. It's what I like. It's the ease of it, and I'm pretty content with that, and that's why I'm going to continue. Yeah, ignore that. Yeah, I'm pretty content to stick with emulation. I've no problem with emulation. I know there's people out there that don't like emulation. Okay, that's fair enough. They'd rather play on the original hardware. That's fair enough. To be honest with you, if it was just a matter of just easily plugging the computer into a machine, I can just record it easily. Yeah, I probably would use the Commodore 64 or use my Amstrad. But then you got to wait for the game to load because I've only got cassettes. I suppose it adds to the experience, but I just want to play the fucking game. You know, with emulations, I can just do that because a lot of it's disk emulated unless it's a Commodore 64 and then you've got to wait anyway. But there's T64 files and they are quick to load up, so not a problem using emulation. And you can buy additional bits for your old machines anyway. You can, you know, there's people still developing hardware for it, like the virtual disk drive for the Commodore 64. So you can still, you know, you can still buy new parts for your old existing computers if you want to. You know, at least, you know, there's enthusiasts out there making new technology for old systems. You know, that's, to me, that's great. Even for the Amstrad, you can buy these things off. You can just plug into your port and you've got all your games. You don't even have to sit there and wait for them to load. You just plug it in, type a few commands, that's it. You can play it on your original Amstrad or your Commodore, your Spectrum, whatever. These additional add-ons, brilliant. And I'd rather spend that, I'd rather get these additional like add-ons for your old machines and buy a totally new mini computer. You know, but you know, but emulation for me does it. You know, it's free. You know, it's free to download all these emulators, and the games are free. You know, and you know, when you capture it on screen, if you use capture cards, no one's going to know the difference if you're playing it on original hardware or on emulation. You know, it's exactly the same. All you're seeing is the game. You're not seeing anything else unless you're pointing the camera towards your computer or the television screen. You know, emulation, original hardware, no one's going to tell the difference unless you state it. So no, these new retro computers are not for me. They just don't interest me one bit or another. No, it's something I'm not going to spend my money on. I don't need it. It's just gonna be like them computers there. It's just going to sit on the shelf, just do nothing, just collect dust. That's the way it is. I don't want to know. Well, this video's gone on long enough. What do you think? I mean, you know, I'm telling you my points. What about your points? Would you buy one? Would you buy the new Commodore 64? The Nintendos? The Super Nintendo, the first Nintendo? Would that appeal to you? I mean, you got the USB connections. At least I've got to say something. The Commodore 64, the new one, does come with a joystick, but it's a USB joystick, and I don't know. It just, to me, it just does not interest me personally. It doesn't interest me, but it might interest anybody else, everyone else, anyone else. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end this video now. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, and goodbye.